Did you know that there are vegetables you can plant just once and harvest for the next few decades, just like fruit trees? No replanting, no fussing with seeds every spring. Just plant them once, and you're basically set for life. Most Americans spend every spring buying the vegetable seeds and seedlings year after year. But there's perennial vegetables that grow like fruit trees. Plant them once, and they keep producing decade after decade. Today, we're uncovering the 10 vegetables that grow like fruit trees, coming back year after year without any babying required. So, let's dig into it. Number 1. Sunchokes. These knobby little tubers might look unusual, but they're one of the most underrated vegetables you'll ever grow. Native to North America, they've been cultivated for centuries and are prized for their resilience, flavor, and sheer abundance. What makes sunchokes truly remarkable is how effortlessly they take over your garden. Plant a few tubers in spring, and by fall you will have so many. You will be begging your neighbors to take some. These things multiply underground like they're on a mission. One tuber becomes 5, which become 25, which become a full-blown sunchoke invasion by year 3. The rugged potato-like tubers grow under tall sunflower stalks that can reach 10 feet high. In late summer, bright yellow flowers appear that look exactly like small sunflowers, because that's exactly what they are. The whole plant is basically a sunflower that decided to moonlight as a root vegetable. The taste is nutty and slightly sweet, somewhere between a water chestnut and a potato with a hint of artichoke flavor. You can eat them raw, sliced thin in salad, or cooked like potatoes. Roasting brings out their natural sweetness and creates a caramelized exterior that's absolutely delicious. But here's the catch nobody tells you about. Sunchokes contain a type of fiber called inulin that the human digestive system struggles with. Eat too many, and you'll discover why some people call them fartichokes. It's like nature's way of ensuring you share your harvest with others, whether they want it or not. Despite their gas-inducing reputation, sunchokes are incredibly nutritious. They're loaded with iron, potassium, and thiamine. The inulin that causes digestive drama is actually a prebiotic that feeds beneficial gut bacteria, so they're healthy, even if they make your stomach gurgle, like a broken dishwasher. The best part? Once planted, you'll never get rid of them. Miss even one tiny tuber when harvesting, and next year you'll have new plants. They're the gift that keeps on giving, whether you want it to or not. Number 2. Horseradish. Speaking of plants that never leave, let's talk about horseradish. This spicy root is the garden equivalent of that relative who shows up uninvited and refuses to leave, except you'll actually be glad it's there. Horseradish has been clearing sinuses for over 3,000 years. Ancient Egyptians knew about it. Greeks used it as medicine, and medieval Europeans grated it over everything to make bland food somewhat edible. Before refrigeration, horseradish's antimicrobial properties helped preserve food, which explains why it shows up in so many traditional recipes. Plant one small horseradish root, and it'll stick around longer than your mortgage. The thick, white taproot burrows deep into the soil, sending up large, crinkled leaves that look completely harmless. But underground, it is busy creating more roots that spread outward, like they're planning a hostile takeover of your garden. The growing part requires almost zero effort. Horseradish thrives in terrible soil, laughs at drought, and keeps producing, even when you ignore it for years. Plant it in spring. Water it occasionally the first year, then basically forget about it. Come fall, dig up some roots when you need them, and leave the rest to multiply. The flavor is what makes horseradish special. That sharp, sinus-clearing heat that hits the back of your nose like a freight train. Fresh horseradish is about 10 times stronger than the jarred stuff at the grocery store. Grating fresh roots releases volatile oils that make your eyes water and your nose run, but the flavor is incomparable. Here's a pro tip from people who've learned the hard way. Grate horseradish outside or near an open window. Doing it indoors clears the room faster than a fire alarm. The pungent fumes are so powerful, they've been used historically as a cleaning agent and even as a mild pesticide. The nutritional benefits are impressive too. Horseradish contains compounds called glucosinolates that have antimicrobial and anti-cancer properties. It's loaded with vitamin C, calcium, and potassium. Traditional medicine used it to treat everything from respiratory infections to urinary tract issues, and modern science has actually confirmed some of these benefits. The only real challenge with horseradish is keeping it contained. Once established, it spreads aggressively. Smart gardeners plant it in a location where it can spread without invading other crops, or contain it in a buried barrel or large container. Otherwise, you'll be finding horseradish volunteers popping up everywhere for years. Number 3. Rhubarb. Rhubarb is that weird perennial that pretends to be a fruit but is actually a vegetable with serious commitment issues about its identity. Those tart red stalks show up in desserts like they belong there, fooling everyone into thinking they're eating fruit pie. Here's what makes rhubarb perfect for anyone who wants fresh produce without the hassle. Plant one crown and you have basically adopted a productive friend for the next 20 to 30 years. No replanting and minimal maintenance, just mulch it with compost each spring, and it will reward you with armloads of tangy stalks. The timing is perfect too. When most of your garden still looks like a dirt patch in early spring, rhubarb pushes up through cold soil like it owns the place. Those thick crimson stalks are ready for harvest when everything else is barely waking up. It's like having a vegetable that refuses to sleep in. Medieval Europeans initially grew rhubarb for medicine, not food. The dried roots were imported from China at prices rivaling spices, used as a powerful laxative. Only later did someone figure out the stalks made excellent pies, though excellent might be generous, without adding several cups of sugar. The stalks contain malic acid and oxalic acid, giving them that mouth-puckering tartness that makes your face scrunch up. But paired with strawberries and enough sugar, rhubarb transforms into one of spring's finest desserts. Rhubarb crisp, rhubarb pie, rhubarb jam, the tart flavor cuts through sweetness perfectly. Now, here's the critical warning. Never eat the leaves. They contain dangerously high levels of oxalic acid and other compounds that will make you seriously ill. Stick to the stalks, which are perfectly safe and don't contain enough oxalic acid to cause problems. Harvesting is simple. Grab stalks near the base, twist, and pull. Don't cut them with a knife, as that can invite rot. Take about half the stalks each time, leaving the rest to feed the plant's roots for next year's growth. The plant needs those remaining leaves to photosynthesize and store energy underground. Growing rhubarb is almost embarrassingly easy. Give it a spot with morning sun and afternoon shade in hot climates, or full sun in cooler areas. Dig in some compost. Plant your crown about 2 inches deep. Water it well the first year, then mostly ignore it. The plant spreads into a massive clump that looks impressive and produces more stalks than you know what to do with. Number 4. Tree collards. Here's where things get interesting. Tree collards are exactly what they sound like, collard greens that grow on a tree-like trunk instead of as annual plants. And yes, they're as weird and wonderful as that description suggests. Most Americans know collards as those tough green leaves you pick up at the grocery store, cook for hours with ham hocks, and serve as a Southern tradition. But tree collards are completely different. A perennial version that can grow 6 to 12 feet tall and live for over a decade. The plant develops a thick, woody trunk over time, looking more like a small tree than a vegetable. Leaves sprout from the top in a cabbage-like crown, and you harvest them continuously by snapping off the lower leaves while new ones keep forming at the top. It is like having a collard green fountain that never runs dry. Here is what makes tree collards remarkable. They thrive in climates where regular collards struggle. They handle heat better, tolerate partial shade, and keep producing fresh greens year-round in mild climates. Even in colder areas, they often survive winters that would obliterate regular collards. The flavor is milder and sweeter than annual collards, with less of that bitter, sulfurous taste. The leaves are also more tender, requiring less cooking time. You can even eat young leaves raw in salads, something you'd never do with regular collards, unless you enjoy chewing on leather. Nutritionally, tree collards are powerhouses. They're loaded with vitamins A, C, and K, plus calcium, iron, and fiber. The vitamin K content is so high that one serving provides several times your daily requirement, important for blood clotting and bone health. The growing process is simple. Tree collards are typically propagated from cuttings rather than seeds. Snap off a 6-inch piece of stem, stick it in moist soil, and it'll root within a few weeks. Once established, they need minimal care, occasional watering during dry spells, and maybe some compost once or twice a year. One plant produces more greens than most families can eat, making them perfect for sharing with neighbors or preserving. The leaves can be blanched and frozen, maintaining their nutritional value for months. Number 5. Okinawa spinach. Spinach comes from one of the world's blue zone areas, where people regularly live past 100. Maybe eating this perennial green is their secret, or maybe it is not being stressed out by modern life. This beautiful plant has dark green leaves with striking purple undersides. It grows as a perennial, forming bushy clumps, about 2 feet tall. The ornamental appearance makes it perfect for edible landscaping. It's pretty enough for flower beds, while providing nutritious greens. The flavor is mild and slightly nutty, without the bitterness of many leafy greens. Young leaves can be eaten raw in salads, while older leaves are excellent sautéed or added to soups. The texture remains tender, even as leaves mature, unlike spinach, which gets tough. What makes Okinawa spinach particularly valuable is its shade tolerance. Most vegetables demand full sun, but this one actually prefers partial shade in hot climates. It is perfect for those shady spots where you thought nothing edible would grow. Nutritionally, Okinawa spinach is loaded with anthocyanins, the same antioxidants that give blueberries their health benefits. The purple color indicates high levels of these compounds. It's also rich in vitamins A and C, iron, and calcium. Propagation is almost too easy. Stick stem cuttings in moist soil, and they will root within days. One plant quickly becomes many, providing more greens than a typical family can eat. The plants keep producing year-round, in frost-free climates, with peak growth during warm, humid weather. Number 6. Chayote. Chayote looks like a pale green pear. Got into a fight with a squash and lost. This weird, wrinkled fruit, yes, it's technically a fruit, is actually a perennial vine that produces prolifically in warm climates. One chayote vine can take over your entire backyard if you let it. These vigorous climbers grow 30 to 50 feet in a single season, producing dozens or even hundreds of fruits from a single plant. In frost-free areas, the tuberous roots survive year after year, sending up new vines each spring. Originally from Mexico and Central America, chayote has been cultivated for thousands of years. The Aztecs and Maya considered it a dietary staple, and they were onto something. Every part of the plant is edible. Fruits, roots, shoots, and leaves all provide food. The fruits themselves are mild and slightly sweet, with a crisp texture similar to cucumber. They contain almost no calories, about 25 per cup, making them perfect for anyone watching their weight. The flavor is subtle enough that chayote takes on whatever seasonings you cook it with. The roots, called ichintal, are even more interesting. They're starchy tubers that can grow to enormous sizes, some weighing 20 pounds or more. The taste is somewhere between potato and yam, and they store for months in cool conditions. Growing chayote starts with planting an entire fruit. You do not extract seeds. The whole fruit goes in the ground at a 45-degree angle with the stem end exposed. The fruit itself provides nutrients for the emerging plant. Plant in spring after frost danger passes, provide a sturdy trellis, and stand back. The vines need full sun and regular water to produce well. In tropical climates, They are incredibly low-maintenance perennials, returning year after year. Number 7. Egyptian walking onion. The Egyptian walking onion has to be one of the strangest vegetables you'll ever grow, and it's not even from Egypt. The walking part, though, that's completely accurate and slightly disturbing. These perennial onions produce small bulblets at the top of their stalks instead of flowers. As those top bulbs grow heavier, the stalks bend over and touch the ground, where the bulblets take root and start new plants. Essentially, the onions walk across your garden bed over time, slowly migrating, like the world's slowest vegetable invasion. The name Egyptian probably came from Romani people who introduced them to Europe. They were called gypsies at the time, which became Gyptian, which somehow morphed into Egyptian. Historical accuracy wasn't a strong suit in vegetable naming. What makes these onions brilliant is their triple harvest potential. The underground bulbs taste like shallots, perfect for cooking. The green tops work like scallions all season long. And those weird top bulbs? They are like tiny onions with a strong, pungent flavor, great for pickling or quick cooking. Plant them once, and you'll have onions forever, whether you want them or not. The bulblets that form on top ensure constant propagation. Even if you harvest every single plant, missed bulblets will sprout new ones next year. They are the garden equivalent of that friend who keeps showing up at parties uninvited but always brings good food. Egyptian walking onions are incredibly cold-hardy, surviving winters that would kill regular onions. They green up earlier in spring than almost any other vegetable, providing fresh flavor when your garden is otherwise bare. In many climates, you can harvest the green tops year-round. Growing them requires almost zero skill. Stick some bulbs or bulblets in the ground in fall or early spring. Water them occasionally until established, then basically ignore them. They tolerate poor soil, don't mind partial shade, and spread whether you help them or not. Number 8. Cassava. Cassava feeds over 800 million people worldwide, yet most Americans have only encountered it as tapioca pudding. Those little pearls come from cassava starch, and they barely hint at this perennial root vegetable's importance. The starchy roots can grow absolutely massive, some reaching 3 feet long and weighing 10 pounds or more. Cassava grows as a perennial shrub, producing roots continuously for several years before needing replacement. There are 2 main types, sweet and bitter. Sweet varieties have lower levels of cyanogenic compounds and can be cooked and eaten directly. Bitter varieties require more extensive processing to remove toxins but produce higher yields and resist pests better. Properly prepared cassava is an excellent carbohydrate source, similar to potatoes, but with a slightly sweet, nutty flavor. It's naturally gluten-free, making it valuable for people with celiac disease. The starch content is so high that cassava flour has become increasingly popular in gluten-free baking. Growing cassava is straightforward in warm climates. Plant stem cuttings about 6 inches long in well-drained soil. The plants tolerate poor soil and drought once established, making them reliable in areas where other crops struggle. The roots can be harvested 8 to 24 months after planting, depending on variety and growing conditions. As a perennial, established plants produce continuously, with roots increasing in size over time. Number 9. Sorrel. Sorrel might be the most underappreciated perennial vegetable in America. This lemony tart green has been a European staple for centuries, yet most Americans have never even heard of it. The sharp, citrusy flavor comes from oxalic acid, the same compound in rhubarb. A little goes a long way, adding brightness to salads, soups, and sauces. French cuisine uses sorrel extensively, particularly in the classic sauce for salmon. Sorrel grows as a perennial clump, tolerating cold that would kill most leafy greens. The plants go dormant in winter and return vigorously each spring, producing tender new leaves before most other vegetables even think about growing. What makes sorrel particularly valuable is its early season production. Those first spring leaves appear when your body is desperate for fresh, vitamin-rich food after a winter of stored vegetables. The tartness itself signals high vitamin C content. One serving provides about 50% of your daily needs. There are several varieties, with French sorrel being the most popular, for culinary use. It has smaller, more tender leaves with a refined flavor compared to common sorrel's larger, more assertive leaves. Growing sorrel is ridiculously simple. Plant it once in rich, moist soil with full sun to partial shade. It spreads slowly into larger clumps that can be divided every few years. Harvest leaves continuously from spring through fall, and the plant keeps producing. The only real maintenance is removing flower stalks as they appear. Let sorrel flower and seed, and the leaves become tough and bitter. Snap off those flowering stems and the plant redirects energy into producing more tender leaves. Number 10. Taro. Taro has fed Pacific Island and Asian populations for thousands of years. Those starchy tubers and nutritious leaves sustained entire civilizations, and they're perennials that keep producing year after year in warm, wet climate. The large, elephant ear-shaped leaves are unmistakable. Taro grows as a perennial, producing both edible tubers underground and edible leaves above ground. It's like getting two vegetables from one plant. The tubers, called corm, are starchy and slightly sweet when cooked, used similarly to potatoes. They must be cooked to break down calcium oxalate crystals that cause irritation if eaten raw. Boiled, steamed, or baked taro becomes creamy and nutty, perfect for everything, from chips to desserts. The leaves are also edible when cooked, tasting similar to spinach. They're rich in vitamins A and C, iron, and calcium. In many Pacific and Asian cuisines, taro leaves are wrapped around fish or meat for steaming, or chopped and added to soups and stews. Growing taro requires wet conditions. It naturally grows in wetlands and along stream banks. Some varieties are grown in standing water, making them perfect for bog gardens or poorly drained areas where other vegetables fail. The plants can even be grown in containers kept constantly wet. Different varieties offer different characteristics. Some are grown primarily for tubers, others for leaves. Purple varieties are particularly stunning, with colorful stems and leaf veins that make them ornamental enough for water gardens. Which of these vegetables surprised you most? Let me know in the comments section, and if you are ready to grow some of these forgotten wonders in your own garden, hit subscribe so you don't miss future videos on ancient plants that deserve a comeback.